of Rotogrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that Rotogrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on Rotogrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your Rotogrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @Rotogrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in for the Tuesday, March 22nd edition of Grinderslive, the NHL edition. I'm going to be your host for today, Sean PSU Fans 2 Newsham. Joining me today is Taylor Ezel. Taylor, how's it going on this Tuesday?
It's going pretty well. We've got a huge contest on DraftKings, which is rare in our little world. So looking forward to that and breaking down some puck today.
It is. I saw some commotion on Twitter about the top heavy 33% payout stuff that I know that DraftKings loves to run out there. Is that something that you saw and noticed as well?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Saul posting about that, and I get it. I also get it from DraftKings perspective where they're trying to show that top heavy, you know, the 100K to first and draw some more casuals in. So I get it both ways. Yes, as a more hardcore player, I'd probably like to see it a little bit more evenly distributed. But we get so few top heavy, or not top heavy, but, you know, huge prize pools like that I'm kind of okay with it for a slate like tonight.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that's always a conundrum. So speaking a little bit off topic of not hockey to start the show, March Madness is in full swing. So if you guys are out there watching March Madness instead of hockey on, like, let's say the weekend or Thursday, or you're watching it with it, make sure that you guys check out Scores and Odds. It's a great time to be a sports bettor. We've got you covered at scoresandodds.com, your number one place for all things sports betting. Check it out for daily expert picks, analysis, and tools to make you a better sports bettor. I know there's been some great content, great bets out there thus far in March Madness. Do you watch any games this weekend, Taylor?
Oh yeah, glued to it. And even
I used to go to Vegas most of the years, but I haven't gone in a while, and it is a lot less eventful than when I used to be sitting at a sports book in Vegas.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously filling out brackets, having money on games helps a little bit, but you know, the unpredictability of it is just fun. The TCU Arizona game the other night was fun. I was trying to go to bed and I got a notification that it was closed, and I was like, all right, I got to stay up and watch this. So
that's how it goes. Yeah, I saw I believe St. Peter's gym. Have you seen their gym?
Yeah, it looks like my high school gym.
That's what I said. I said it literally looked like a worse version of my high school gym. I was shocked with how it was, but it's always great to see things like that happen. And realistically, when you have 64 teams and you have that many games, you generally will get at least one sort of story like that, which is always entertaining and something to watch each year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone, we're going to dig in. We're going to go game by game. If you guys have any questions for tonight's slate, make sure you add them in the Discord. We'll be happy to answer. And then, as always, make sure you guys are in the Discord. Taylor and I were talking before the show about Moneyball 16, and Cinema always are posting every injury news that you need, any adjustment that you need, goalies as well. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you hop in the Discord and ask them. All right, first game of the night that we'll start with is the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Carolina Hurricanes. We come in here with Tampa Bay at Carolina. It's pretty much an even game. Carolina is a slight favorite at -116. We'll start with the Tampa Bay side of things. When you have a lot of the expensive guys like Kucherov, Hedman, Stamkos as slight underdogs on the road, do you like them at all tonight, even in GPP purposes?
Yeah, this is a weird one because for real life purposes, this is arguably the game of the night. You've got two teams with Stanley Cup aspirations, and yet for fantasy, you could argue it's one of the least desirable games, which is a little surprising given all the talent that you just mentioned. So, yes, I have interest in kind of the big three forwards of Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, and maybe even Hedman. I don't think they're a priority if you're mass multi-entering or if you're throwing a bunch of bullets in the 100K to first. Sure, you should probably have one or two Tampa Bay stacks, but I don't think you can make them a priority on such a large slate in a difficult matchup.
Yeah, the nice thing with hockey, which I've talked about in other shows with Tim, is that hockey carries significantly lower ownerships than sports like NFL, NBA. So, for example, you'll see a team like Tampa Bay. They're one of the better teams in the league, have a lot of really good scorers that can do well. You can probably get them at sub 5% own on a slate like this, on a big slate like this. Do you typically find yourself going overexposed on teams like that, knowing that you don't really have to go super high to get to that exposure?
Yeah, and I'm more of a single entry type or three max, so I have to be really in love with them to go in my primary lineup. But absolutely, I think if you like a spot more than the general consensus does, then I would have no problems taking a shot on Tampa tonight.
For sure. All right. And then the flip side of things, we have Carolina Hurricanes. You're looking at really a lot of the same situations. Tony DeAngelo returned recently, but you have Sebastian Aho, Sechnichuk, Teravainen, and you have a lot more expensive guys. And again, not one of the better matchups of the day. This looks like, of the games tonight, the second lowest total of the entire night. So do you like anyone on the Carolina side at home?
Yeah, I probably like them even less than Tampa because, like you said, it's pretty much a pick 'em game with a 5.5 total. So the team total is low. I think the big difference for Carolina is they're not quite as concentrated from an offensive perspective. So you've got Aho, who's probably the number one option, but their power play spreads across two lines. So I understand if you want to target first or second line or maybe even just the power play, but I have a hard time imagining they're going to blow up Vasilevsky for more than a few goals. He almost never gives up more than 3 or so goals. So if they do score 2 or 3, you're going to need them to all come from the same line. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Exactly. All right, on to the next game. We have the highest total of the night, I believe, with around 6.5 goals or a little over. Columbus Blue Jackets at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins come in here as a major favorite on the night with a game with massive totals. Their goal expectancy is about a full goal higher than every other team on the slate, which is significant, especially in hockey. That is not something you see very often. So on the Pittsburgh side of the ice, you have Crosby, Gunsel, Russ, Letang, and the high price guys. However, the matchup here is a lot better. Do you like any of these Pittsburgh guys in cash or in your lower entry GPP lineups?
Yeah, I think you have to. You mentioned the team total. You've got Crosby and Malkin are probably the priorities. And then Rickard Rakell should make his debut tonight. And DK really blew his price here completely at minimum price on DK at 2,500. So I think he'll be the most popular value play of the night, which is hard to argue with. He's not going to be on the number one power play, but he'll get enough quality minutes that he should be able to produce. So absolutely. You mentioned the first line, and then on the second line, Rakell and Malkin are definitely some of the top plays in the slate.
Yeah, it seems like the vintage DraftKings air here with this one, where you get a guy that comes in fresh off trade that is a really great play and is significantly underpriced. Rickard Rakell at 2,500 is quite favorable to have, and he'll be probably one of your highest owned players on the night. And similar, he gets the Evander Kane treatment where first game comes in at 2,500, where Kane is now priced in the 6K to 7K range most nights. Now, from a perspective of highest scores, do you see someone in the Pittsburgh game, preferably on the Penguins, being the highest scorer of the night? or do you think it's going to be someone in maybe the Edmonton game later in the night or elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a great question. Twice in the last few weeks on shows with Boggs, I've pointed out how little upside Pittsburgh one has actually had. They've been really consistent, scoring a point or two per game, but not a whole lot of upside. And then in their last game, Crosby comes out and has a pair of goals and 6 shots on goal. So if that hadn't happened, then I may say no. But I think given the matchup, being at home, they've got a new toy to play with. I do think Crosby probably projects out as the top play in the slate.
For sure. And speaking of that, guys, we're running a contest tonight on YouTube. So make sure you go to YouTube, hit the like button on the video, and leave a comment on the video with the guess at who will have the highest points on the slate for DraftKings perspective and how many points that will be. Whoever gets closest to the highest projection on the slate will receive a week free of the combo Rotogrinders premium subscription. So make sure you go to the video, smash the like button, and leave a comment letting us know what your guess is there. All right, on the Columbus side of the ice, I'm going to assume you're not super interested in anyone here. Is there anyone that stands out to you maybe as a lower owned punt play?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is Line A. I think he's kind of the ultimate leverage GPP play. He could easily get you 3 fantasy points with 0 real life points and 2 shots on goal. He could also come out and have 6 shots on goal and a few points. So he would be the target. The advantage in going with him is you can pair him with Nyquist and Roslovic for very cheap. So I think he's the one. If you were looking anywhere, you could throw in Bjorkstrand for some power play correlation. It's just tough to do when there's such a huge underdog.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I will point out from a GPP perspective is if you want to go totally off the books and you want to play a guy like Korpisalo or one of the major underdog goalies, those guys typically have major upside. In the event that they get a shutout or a win, they're generally going to face a lot of shots and have a major save total with the win. So like they have projections to be very high score in those situations. All right, next game, we got the New York Rangers at the New Jersey Devils. Is there anyone from the Rangers that you like here?
Yeah, I've struggled a little bit with this one because the Devils have been awful lately defensively. They've given up 6 goals in 3 straight games. And granted, a few of those were tough matchups against the Oilers and Flames, but their defense has struggled. So I should want more of the Rangers, but on a slate like this, it is a little tough. They've had a few additions come in with Vetrano and Kopp. I don't think that changes a whole lot from a fantasy perspective. Yes, Vetrano is going to slot into that second line, it looks like, but neither will be on the number 1 power play. So I'm fine if you want to target either the first line with Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, or you could go with, a mini stack on the second line of Strome and Panarin. That's probably where I would lean. If you want to throw in Vetrano for cheap, you can. So yeah, some interest here. Struggling to pull the trigger, maybe as much as I should be.
All right, how about the New Jersey side?
Not as much on the New Jersey side. I'm assuming Shesterkin will be in net tonight, and he's arguably the Vezina Trophy winner at the end of the year if he keeps up this current play. I've mentioned it many times with Boggs. It's tough to stack up the Devils anyways, just given how they correlate or don't correlate on the power play. So they've got, really, you're looking at Hischier and Bratt as the only 2 that correlate. So if you had to pick a duo, those would be the 2. But against Shesterkin, even at home, I don't think the Devils are very high on my list.
For sure. All right, next game up, we got the St. Louis Blues at the Washington Capitals. Washington comes in as a slight favorite here at -143. Total in this game is decent. It's at a little bit over 6. It's around like 6.2 goals. And Vladimir Tarasenko will not play. So for the home team, Washington, is there anyone that you like on the Capitals going into this game?
Yeah, I think it starts and ends with Ovechkin here. He's riding a 4-game goal streak. He's a shots on goal monster. So he's going to be the primary target. You can also pair him with Kuznetsov. They skate together at even strength and on the power play. And surprisingly, Kuznetsov, and I don't have the numbers in front of me to support this, but it sure seems like he shot the puck a lot more this year. Seems like in the past, especially when he was with Ovechkin, he would have a shot or 2 per game and end up with more assists. Whereas this year he's getting the 5+ shots on goal bonus pretty frequently. So that duo would definitely be my primary, target from this game. I think if Oshie misses, then Tom Wilson who skates with those two at even strength. I think he'll get some power play time as well, and I think that's a decent boost to his value. And you've got John Carlson, who I think has been a little bit of a disappointment from a fantasy perspective. You've got other guys like Yossi, who I would say he used to be equal to. He just hasn't quite shown the upside. So I would probably avoid unless you're going like a full onslaught stack here for the Capitals.
Yeah, when you look at things, and you look at Carlson, like shot volume seems to be quite down for him. He's got no games over 4 shots in like his last 10, and he's had a lot of duds with like 1 or 2 shots only. So definitely agree with that. And as you mentioned, TJ Oshie is a game time decision. We think he probably is going to be out, but make sure you guys check in the Discord if you have any questions in regards to Oshie. All right, on the St. Louis side of things, we have Tarasenko and Robert Thomas are out for this game. Is there anyone that you can peel from them that makes a little bit of sense with those guys missing?
Yeah, I think Braden Shin probably gets the biggest boost. He'll move up to the second line center. He and Buchnevich have been on the third line, so I think both of them will get bumped up. I probably prefer Shin a little bit just because he's also in the power play. And then David Perron's been the standout lately, and it's kind of come out of nowhere. He's riding a 6-game goal streak, just had a hat trick, really started the year slow, and like I said, out of nowhere has come on strong. So I think you could play him as a one-off, just given the volume of shots that he's been producing lately. Normally, I would say Ryan O'Reilly would be a good target with him, but his production has been shockingly bad. When you consider how many goals Perron has scored, you would think that O'Reilly's been assisting on a lot of those, and it just hasn't been there. So if I were targeting this game, I may go Perron and then stack him up with Shin for a power play mini stack as opposed to O'Reilly at even strength.
Right. Next game, we have the Philadelphia Flyers versus Detroit Red Wings. Shockingly, Detroit actually has a game where they come in as a slight favorite here at home. They come in at -133 to Philadelphia's +120 as of now. On the Philadelphia side of the ice, we've learned that Ryan Ellis will definitely not return for the 2011-2022 season, which is not something that's new because it has been a while since he plays. But on the Philadelphia side of the ice, is there anyone that you like in this game? No one really stands out to me with great scoring other than Atkinson, who is not incredibly cheap.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I was a little surprised. I went into this game hoping to be able to target the Flyers side of it. And then when I looked at their line breakdown, it's pretty ugly. And I mean, some of that's due to the departure of Giroux, but some of it's just the way they have their power play set up right now. It looks like it's going to be Van Riemsdyk, Frost, Atkinson, Tippett, and Yandel. It's like that's pretty ugly. So I was hoping to potentially get someone like Kevin Hayes, who's actually been playing pretty well, but he's not on the power play. So I agree. I think this is a stay away from me.
All right. And then on the Detroit side of things, it's one of the better matchups that we can get for Dylan Larkin, who's a guy that really goes out there and can perform in certain situations. Like he's a guy that has some major upside games this year. Do you think this could be a game that Larkin comes out and actually hits an upside type situation?
Yeah, I do. And in my research, the thing that stood out is Carter Hart. When he's on, he's absolutely on and one of the best goalies. And when he's off, he is very off. And so I think that makes for a great target on the opposing team. In his last 6 starts, he's either allowed 1 goal, which he's done twice, or he's allowed 4 or more. So it's either boom or bust with Carter Hart. That's what you want when you're targeting an offense. Like you said, the Larkin line of Vrana, Larkin, and Raymond would definitely be the target. If you want to throw in Tyler Bertuzzi from the second line on the power play, you can do that. But I would probably stick with the first line.
For sure. All right. Next game up, we have Ottawa Senators versus New York Islanders. Islanders are one of your bigger favorites on the slate tonight at -203. Ottawa is +180 in this matchup as of now. It does have the lowest total on the entire slate, around 5.5 goals as of right now. So even though the New York Islanders are a major favorite, they do not have among the top couple goal expectancies in this game. So starting with the Islanders side of things, you have guys that are a little bit cheap. For this big of a favorite, you have a lot of guys out there that are sub 5K, the only exceptions being Dobson and Brock Nelson. So is there anyone from the Islanders that stands out for you being such a big favorite?
Yeah, this was a tough one because, like you said, they're a huge favorite. Most of that's due to their defense and goaltending as opposed to their offense. But I keep trying to force myself to like something, and it's just tough to do. Barzell seems to be a little bit out of the doghouse and is now back on the #1 power play, which is good. but in a way that screws things up because now there's not as much correlation on the power play. Now you've got Lee, who's broken up, Lee and Nelson are the only two that correlate at this point. Villiers doesn't. You've got JG Pajot now on the power play. So they stretch across 3 lines there. So to answer your question, not really. If I had to go one off, it'd probably be Anders Lee just because he's cheap, like you mentioned. Nelson and Dobson are probably the best raw point plays, but they're more expensive than I'd like to play in this matchup.
For sure. And then on the other side of the ice with the Senators, it's a weird situation. I don't think we see this very often where the big favorite who's at home, everyone's priced relatively cheap. On the other side, you have Ottawa, like you have Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, Stutzel. A lot of these guys are not cheap despite being a massive underdog in this game. Is there anyone on Ottawa that maybe is being under or overlooked due to the price points?
Not really. The only guy I would throw out is Brandstrom just because he's minimum price with Shabbat out for the year. He's getting not quite the same usage, but he is on the power play. He's getting 20 plus minutes a night. You could do worse at 2,500, but like you said, they have the second lowest team total on the night at 2.3 goals. With the prices the way they are, they're pretty much a scratch off for me.
All right, next game we have the Vegas Golden Knights versus Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg is minus 169 here at home. When you look at the Vegas side of the ice here, you just see a bunch of IRs on the DraftKings page. You got Pacioretty on the IR, Mark Stone, Whitecloud's out, Riley Smith, Martinez. It just looks like a disaster area for Vegas. Is there anyone that comes in and gets really a big boost due to all of those higher price guys being out?
Yeah, the only good thing for fantasy, because all of those injuries, they've loaded up their top line now. They've kind of given up on trying to spread out the wealth, and they're just saying, we're going to throw all of our eggs in the top line basket with Carlson, Eichel, and Marchessault. So if you had to go with one line, that would be it. But all of them logged very heavy minutes last night against Minnesota. Eichel and Marchessault had 21 minutes. Carlson had 23. Same is true. Pietrangelo and Theodore played 27 minutes. So I just think with heavy legs coming in here against a speedy Winnipeg team, yes, you could throw out that first line in GPPs, but I don't think they're a high priority.
For sure. All right, the Winnipeg side of things, it looks like Kyle Connor's finally priced up a little bit. He's only been under 14 fantasy points on DraftKings one time in the last month. So it's nice to see that his price has sort of climbed a bit to where it probably should be. So do you like Connor at all? And do you like any of the other Jets teammates as well?
Yeah, I pretty much like all of the top 6. And earlier when you asked about if Crosby and Pittsburgh 1 was kind of my top projected on the slate, it was really between Pittsburgh 1 and Winnipeg here. I think they're in a great spot just due to the injuries you mentioned for Vegas and also the coming on the second of a back-to-back. So Kyle Connor is definitely the priority, just given his shots on goal volume. Nikolai Ehlers has gotten bumped to the first line now with Scheifele and Wheelers. I think that'll help both Ehlers and Connors because they were a little bit cannibalizing each other's shot on goal volume. So really everyone from the top 6, except for maybe Svechnikov, who's been kind of a dud this year. So the entire power play. And then you could even throw in Josh Morrissey. His usage has gone up a lot lately. It feels like earlier in the year they were splitting between he and Pionk. Now it's pretty much his job or his role in the power play. So I think Morrissey at 4,400 is a solid value.
For sure. All right, next game, we have the Edmonton Oilers at Dallas Stars. Pretty much a coin flip game here. Dallas comes in as a slight favorite. So on the Edmonton side of the ice, it looks like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is going to return Thursday. So he's not quite back tonight, but you obviously still have the major firepower with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And then you also have Evander Kane not priced at $2,500 anymore. So is there any people on Edmonton that you like? And I know that it's always difficult to get away from McDavid.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And I think it's going to be an ownership play tonight. It's looking like McDavid might go under owned just due to a somewhat tough matchup and being on the second of a back-to-back. If that's the case, then Connor McDavid any given night has multi-point upside. His line mates are easily pairable. Yamamoto's dirt cheap still. Kane, yes, his price has come up, but he's warranted that. So I think that first line is absolutely in play. I don't like the second line quite as much with Draisaitl just because neither Hyman nor Puljujarvi get a whole lot of power play time. But if you want to play McDavid at single-digit ownership, that's, you're almost never going to get that. So I'm on board with that.
All right. And then on the Dallas side of things, we have people, they've sort of came down a little bit. I know at one point, Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski, and those guys were a little bit more expensive. Is there anyone on the Dallas side that you like at all?
Yeah. I think last week on the show with Boggs, I mentioned that Jason Robertson was the Stars' best player. And since then, he's done absolutely nothing. So I believe I jinxed him a little bit, but I would still be targeting that first line. We've got Hintz, Robertson, Pavelski. They haven't been excellent lately. The hope there is that on home ice, they can pick and choose their matchups, and also against the tired legs of Edmonton, who can be leaky defensively anyways. I think that would be the play. They're kind of a mid-range option. If you're making a bunch of lineups, they should absolutely be in your player pool. I would kind of put them in the middle, not something I'm placing under, a whole lot of priority tonight. Other thing I'll point out, similar to Morrissey above, Klingberg usage has been good since Heiskanen's been out. So if you are stacking up that first line, you can definitely throw him in on the power play. I think he's 4,800 on DraftKings. That's a pretty fair price, and he has shown some upside in the past.
For sure. All right. We have a question, so we're going to go back and talk about that a little bit here at first. So someone asked, should they start their FanDuel lineup with Pittsburgh 1 tonight? I know we talked about them being the biggest favorite on the slate and obviously in one of those positions, but you talked about them possibly lacking upside. So there's something with on FanDuel you think you should be most likely starting with the Pittsburgh 1 situation. And the prices on some of those guys are like, you're looking at 8,700 for Rust, 8,600 for Gensel. And then people are a little bit more expensive on the way down, with the exception of Rickard Rakell is not what he was on DraftKings, where he is 5,200 here.
Yeah, and I didn't allude to this earlier, but the lack of upside has been more on the Rust and Gensel side. They just haven't been shooting the puck. And so if they're not assisting on Crosby goals, then they're not having the upside that you need to pay off those price tags. So I have no problem with going full out Pittsburgh 1. I also don't have an issue with just playing Crosby and spreading it out elsewhere, or even going like Crosby, Malkin. So you get a power play stack. And then also if either of the top two lines score, you're likely going to pick up on, either an assist or a goal from Malkin there. So I don't think it's a slam dunk to the point where you have to jam in Pittsburgh 1. Clearly they're a great option, but I think you can get away with just Crosby there if you really want.
For sure. All right. One of the other biggest underdogs on the slate, we have the San Jose Sharks plus 275 going into Calgary against the Flames at minus 320 as of right now. On the San Jose side of things, yes, they may be one of the worst teams in the league and they don't have a great record. However, we do have some production players on this team, whether it be Timo Meier, Brent Burns, Couture. Is there anyone that you think you could peel out from San Jose tonight?
Yeah, Timo Meier would probably be the one-off if I were to play anyone. I do have pass just written on this. They have the lowest team total of the night. The Flames are a very good team. They happen to be at home. Jacob Markstrom has been excellent. So I probably wouldn't move them up. Flyers only at this point. If you had to play one, it'd be Meier, but he's not cheap either. So I would largely stay away from San Jose.
Definitely. All right. On the other side of the ice, we got the Calgary Flames. No one's really super cheap on this from the guys that you're realistically going to look at, whether it be Gaudreau, Tkachuk, or Lindholm. Do you like any of those high price guys, or is there anyone more on the cheaper variety that you also could find appealing here?
Yeah, it's interesting that they broke up their top line that's been together for a long time, and they dropped Tkachuk down to the second line. And I think for fantasy purposes, that's probably a slight negative. For real life, it probably provides some balance that they're looking for as they're trying to make a playoff run. What it does do for fantasy, it moves Tyler Toffoli up to the top line. He was already on the number one power play. So I think he's 4,900 on DraftKings. I think that's a great value. Lindholm and Gaudreau, they're not super cheap. I think they're good plays. I mean, clearly the Flames are one of the heaviest favorites, so they're expected to score plenty of goals. But right now, I would say Toffoli is the best value. If you want to throw in any of the top six, you can absolutely do so. And then Rasmus Andersson, he sort of fits that same price range and mold. I think I like, I've talked myself into the mid-range in defense tonight, kind of those Klingberg types, Morrissey. Rasmus Andersson fits in that same mold where he's likely going to pick up an assist tonight. upside, might be a little bit lacking, but I think he can absolutely be a part of your flame stacks.
For sure. All right, next game, we got a pretty much dead even game between Seattle and Arizona. The total in this game is not bad. Both teams are projected to score right around 3 goals, which is not bad, especially when you look at how everyone's priced in this game. Everyone is super cheap. We have no one on the Seattle side of things above 5K and only one person above 4. And then on the Arizona side of things, things are relatively cheap as well. So let's start on the visiting Seattle team. We have McCann over 4K. He's the only person. So I imagine you're going to like some value on this team.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show just because it's a matchup of 2 terrible teams doesn't mean it can't be valuable for fantasy. This is kind of the opposite of the Carolina-Tampa game where it's 2 bad teams, but there actually is a lot to like here. And you mentioned it, everyone's dirt cheap for Seattle, so I think there'll be a really popular secondary stack to some of the Pittsburgh ones and the Winnipegs, and it's hard to argue with it. I think I like Gord and Donato on the second line a little more than the first line with Winberg and Eberle and Schwartz. I think both of the top 2 lines are absolutely in play. McCann would be my least favorite just because he is the most expensive. Right now, he's listed on the third line at even strength, and he's not on the power play. And then you got Vince Dunn, who is dirt cheap as well, either 32 or 3,300. He's on the power play. He's a fine value too.
For sure. Someone just asked in the chat, they have 3 tickets for the $20 DraftKings Tuesday night, but there are not any $20 contests. Any idea why? Taylor, I believe that this is because the contest probably filled like hours ago, because that is how DraftKings works.
Yeah, I'll try to find that now. I know I entered, I don't remember if it was a $15 or a $20. So it's possible that they're just not running it, or like you said, it may have already filled.
Correct. I believe that they have a 40 in the lobby. That's a 25K. And I think that I did see a 15, but it might be a second iteration. Instead of a 20, they ran a 15. So yeah, you look at the lobby right now, you have a $15. No, that's probably their main GPP, the $15.
It is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So realistically, DraftKings will change the price points on stuff. So I would look for a different day to find that $20 GPP, or I would email their support and ask them about it, because they will change up the price points. And a lot of these other sports and smaller sports, you'll see price points gets changed frequently, trying to find what they view as the best price point. All right, back to the Arizona side of the thing in the Seattle-Arizona game. They are cheap as well. However, they do have some more expensive pieces with like Clayton Keller, Schmaltz, and Gostisbehere at 5K plus. Is there anyone that you like on the Arizona side here?
Yeah, like you mentioned, their prices are a little bit higher than I would like. And I think given it's a pick 'em game, I probably lean slightly towards the Seattle side. Nick Schmaltz has been good. Lawson Krause has been good. Clayton Keller. I think those would be my 3 primary targets. Gostisbehere. He should have an elevated role with Chikrin out. So I think those would be the 4 targets. Given their price points, I give them a slight bump down compared to Seattle.
All right, last game of the night, we have Nashville Predators versus the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings are actually a slight favorite here in this game. On the Nashville side of things, Matthias Ekholm is day-to-day. He did not play yesterday, so unsure yet whether or not he'll play. And it is the last game of the night, so just be aware of that. Is there anyone on the Predators with this game in mind that you like at all tonight?
Yeah, as a local Nashvilleian and Preds fan, I normally have a pretty good beat on this team. However, tonight feels like a weird one, and I guess Vegas is on board with that by having the Kings as a favorite. It seems like, given Nashville's form and record, that they would be a favorite, but I guess given on the second of a back-to-back, road game in Los Angeles, they don't feel as strongly towards the Preds. The good news for the Preds is that their production is extremely concentrated with that first line. Forsberg and Duchesne have been outstanding. Forsberg had, I think, 5 points last night. He's been unbelievable. They need to sign him to a long-term deal, but that's neither here nor there. So Forsberg and Duchesne would definitely be the priorities. You've got Johansson and, oh goodness, who's the other center that Granlund? You've got Granlund and Johansson, who are fine to throw in if you're looking to stack. They're both cheap, but the goals are going to come from Forsberg and Duchesne, so I don't think they're a high priority. And then last, Roman Josi, he's now at 8,700 on DraftKings. It's fully warranted. You look at his game logs, it's absolutely ridiculous. people continue to underplay him relative to where he probably should be played. Some of that has to do with just prioritizing the elite centers like McKinnon and McDavid, et cetera. He's a great GPP play again tonight because I think a lot of people are not going to pay up for him, just given the fact that he's now 8,700 on DraftKings.
Definitely. He's someone that will always go overlooked, I feel, because people just do not want to pay that price. But when you look at just the peripheral stats that he puts up, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I mean, what's nice is he rarely has a dud just because he contributes in all categories. You know, he blocks shots, he gets shots on goal, he has assists like crazy. So you're never going to get a dud, and he does offer that upside. So I don't know if I'll be able to fit him, but I'll probably end up regretting if I don't have a decent chunk of Yossi tonight.
For sure. All right, next game the last game of the night, we have Los Angeles Kings. They also have a lot of injuries going on, whether it be Doughty, Sean Walker, you have Arvidsson out as well for them. Is there anyone on the Kings that you like at all? Not much I see on them in this game.
Yeah, it's tough because their team total is solid, but that's exactly what I had written down. Where is that production going to come from? Because you've got their top line isn't terrible with Kopitar, Iafallo, and Kempe. You would imagine they would line up with the Preds top line though, and that sort of neutralizes. I think their hope would be to play that to a stalemate, which leaves the second line open, but that second line is not great. And so Arthur Kaliev is fine as sort of a one-off punt, but yeah, I think the Kings will score some goals. I would expect Saros to get the night off and Rittich to play. That's a lot more favorable. I just don't feel confident enough to predict where those goals are going to come from the Kings.
For sure. All right. That is the last game for us tonight. Is there any other things that you think we should add before we wrap it up here, Taylor?
Yeah, I mentioned this in my slate summary. I think goalie is a little easier than it's been. There's a few options that I think are viable. The heavy favorites, you've got Jari is going to be popular for the Penguins. You've got Markstrom, and then you've got Varlamov. Those are probably the three easy options. Also like Hellebuck as a GPP option for the Jets. We talked about the Vegas injuries, the second of a back-to-back. They could really struggle tonight. So at goalie, it probably comes down to those four for me. I don't think you need to get too wild. You mentioned some of the huge underdogs. If you're looking for upside, absolutely tag a few of those because they could, have 40 saves. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to add.
All right, there we go. There's some goalie breakdown for you guys. We will be back on Thursday. I'm not sure who's on the Thursday show. I think I am, and I think maybe Tim is. So make sure you guys tune in Thursday. And then good luck to everyone out there tonight. May you guys win one of those high-end GPPs. For Taylor, I'm Sean. Good luck, everyone. We will see you later.